Hey guys, so basically this is what if what if class 1A was in Jurassic Park or went to Jurassic Park, or what if Deku went to Jurassic Park. Now um basically this is going to be a what if. This is going to be a second video in my series of movie what ifs on Deku. Basically it's just going to be about, my hero or Deku or certain my hero characters replacing characters in certain, movie franchises. I'm doing one on Harry Potter, I'm doing one on Jurassic Park right now, and I'm also going to be doing one for Suicide Squad, doing what if the League of Villains were the Suicide Squad, meaning that the Suicide Squad movie, the second one and the first one, are going to be in one part one. So that's going to be a one shot what if. It's basically just going to be about the League of Villains and pretty much certain my hero villains, basically just, being in the Suicide Squad. Some of the characters in the Suicide Squad I might not replace and just keep them as DC characters, because there's not that many my hero villains I want to bring in that what if. But yeah, also I am uploading a lot of what ifs tomorrow or maybe tonight, because tonight's gonna be pretty chill, so I might upload at least like two videos tonight, and about, let's say, 4 videos tomorrow evening, morning, or night. So I will be uploading what if Invincible was in Young Justice Part 2, and just watch Part 2, because Part 1, I stuttered a lot on that what if, and I don't feel like I did good on that one, but I just uploaded because I had to upload something, so yeah. And also, I am going to be uploading multiple other what ifs, but I'm going to be doing, a little commentary and a list on the what ifs I'm going to be making. So let's get into the what if, and let's just start talking. Now, guys, let's start off with the whole type basis and how my hero character is going to be fit into the Jurassic Park. Now, basically, Jurassic Park is going to be ran by the same type of character, the same man that ran Jurassic Park, the original. But he's just going to be, let's say he's just going to be he's just going to be the anime version of the original, pretty much, owner of Jurassic Park. Just an anime character. Just an old man, like, kind of like, Master Yoshi type anime old man, but a little bit taller and a little bit more humble, and not, a pervert. So basically, for Yue, in Class 1A and Class 1B are going to be going to Jurassic Park. And basically, for this to happen, basically Jurassic Park will be opening, and this would be a pretty much a field trip of sorts, doing pretty much before the forest training arc. This would replace the forest training arc. The forest training arc would actually take place in Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park would take place. They would have training centers there, so they can train there. So the whole entire League of Villains thing would still happen in Jurassic Park, and that's how the animals will escape. So let's get into it, guys. So basically, when Yue is told that doing, the whole entire, pretty much forest training, they go there. Now, basically, Class 1A and Class 1B are the ones that are taken to Jurassic Park. They arrive there in separate pretty much buses, and they get into Jurassic Park. And basically, they're separated by different pretty much areas or camps, a couple miles apart from each other. And basically, the pretty much lineup, or like the animal exhibit right between each other camp, is the T-Rex exhibit. But we're not gonna get into that just yet. But it's gonna be very important in a minute. Now, basically, Yue would be given a opportunity to go to Jurassic Park to train, but also to explore and give your best thoughts on Jurassic Park, because they want to, have people to give their thoughts about it and to get their first, to see if they can do better. And basically, Yue takes this, gladly, and Azawa is told. Now, Azawa is cool with it, and pretty much everybody else is cool with it. Now, basically, the whole Class 1A and Class 1B are sent to Jurassic Park. We start our story off with Class 1A. Now, everybody that was originally going to go to the forest training arc in Class 1A is still going to be there. Now, basically, they go there, and they're super excited. All of them got their beach gear on, and pretty much super excited. Now, most of the teachers, Azawa says that You're not gonna really be training here. Now, the Wild Wild Pussycats are gonna be there because they were told by Jurassic Park to come over and to basically be here. Now, basically, before we get farther, this is gonna be mainly based off the Jurassic Park first movie. Now, doing all of this, basically everybody, Wild Wild Pussycats would have been, would have been escorting everybody around Jurassic Park alongside other members. Now, basically, other members and also the head of this whole entire program of, Jurassic Park, the white-haired man, basically, he would have explained to UA basically how this would go down and how this would go down. Basically about the exhibit and give you guys, or to have your guys' opinions and everything. At the end of your trip and your training, you'll come back here and write down your experience and tell us what was your best, experience on the park. Now, basically, the rest of them would have given a couple of training, and basically near the entrance of Jurassic Park, they would be driven to their campsites. Basically, them sitting down. Now, basically, they would have been told before they can go into the campsite, they have to go into the forest and find the Velociraptor exhibit. Now, basically, they would be confused, saying that this island is huge and the exhibits are really spread apart. So you guys have to go and find it. Now, basically, the crew or the pretty much Class 1A is given multiple trucks to go around to try to find the Velociraptor exhibit, and they aren't given any maps. Mainly just for them to get some training and for them to show off, their tracking abilities or how to find something really quickly. Now, basically, they're told to go on, and basically, mainly they get told, Class 1B is told that as well, and basically they drive off in the pretty much trucks, and they find out the trucks are autopiloted and they're controlled by the pretty much railing on the ground. Now they start driving around, and eventually they find the Velociraptor exhibit. Now basically they're shown by one of the Wild Wild Pussycat members, the man one, basically at the entrance of the Velociraptor exhibit, welcoming Class 1A to the Velociraptor exhibit. They show them and they feed a cow to one of the Velociraptors, and they shred it apart. They bring up the hanger that was holding the cow, and you see it's all ripped up and it's blood all around it. Now, basically, Daku is really, interested by this and writes down in his journal about, day one of Jurassic Park. Now, basically, they get ready and they go off onto another adventure. They start driving around, having a couple of days. Eventually, they're told to come back to the camp. They go back to the camp and they pretty much make their stay there and, pretty much go to sleep that night. The next day, they start off training with a hard just punch in the face. They start training hard. Now, multiple of them go around training in multiple clear areas like beaches or pretty much jungle areas that aren't, pretty much kept or pretty much, infested by dinosaurs. And basically, they start to fight, and multiple of them train the same way. Multiple of them, Momo eating food alongside Sugar Rush, them, building up their quirks, along with Ida, Zero, Daku, and multiple other, pretty much, heroes and, students. Now, eventually, they are cut short. When the training is ended, it is near the end of the day. But basically, the rest of them are given the choice to go around and have a little free time and pretty much, explore the rest of the area. Now, basically, some of the students take that opportunity, and some of the students are, pretty much all the girls in UA. Not all the girls. Basically, the 5 members that, get this chance or, will mainly take it is Denki, Deku, Kirishima, and Bakugo and Todoroki, and also Momo, Mina, and Ochaku. Basically, they're given this chance, and on Class 1A's part, quirk copying guy, Jinso, and also I think it was the girl with the horns. I don't remember her name, and also the other kid from Class 1A, the Vine Head Girl. Now, basically, they get ready and they're given, the chance to go into the Jurassic Park and explore themselves. Now, that night, it starts raining hard, but they still go on a little adventure, and pretty much Kirishima and Denki are in their separate carts with pretty much Ida. No, not Ida. Basically, Todoroki being in the front. Now, with Deku and Bakugo being in the same cart, they're kind of, just chilling. Bakugo saying this is kind of boring. Them driving around and them hearing a roaring. They stop and they look over the fence and they see that the fence is, well, the power's out. Now, basically, the pretty much the base or the camp immediately calls, well, each of the trucks that, pretty much the class is in, or Bakugo, Kirishima, Deku, and Denki are in, and basically tells them to get ready, and the power has shut down pretty much temporarily, and they get out there quickly, and basically them tracking them down by the truck, seeing that they're at the T-Rex exhibit. Basically, Ochaku Ochaku, Mina are in Mina are in the back seat of the basically Bakugo and Deku's seat, where Bakugo and Deku's pretty much bus or truck, and basically they tell them to get ready. And basically, Bakugo says the power's out, meaning that this truck can't go any farther because it's controlled by railing, dummy. Basically, Deku saying if that's it, we gotta run for it. And basically, Bakugo says run for it. If the power is out, multiple of the gates are electrified. Basically, Deku saying that. Deku saying multiple gates are not electrified. So if we run for it fast enough, we can't possibly get back to the camp without getting captured or getting, our scent captured or cooked on by a dinosaur. Now, basically, back to Kirishima and Denki's pretty much, whole entire thing. Todoroki says maybe we can just, run for it. Now, basically, Denki says run for it near the T-Rex cage. If we start running and the gate is electrified, that thing's gonna kick the gate down and start eating us. Basically, Todoroki says doesn't really matter. We can just run for it. Plus, we have quirks. And basically, Denki says I don't think a quirk can work on a literal dinosaur, something that's been here before us. Basically, Denki says let's just go. Now, basically, Kirishima keeps on going about how we can't really run for it because there's no real, running. And we don't even know where to go. And pretty much Todoroki says we just gotta follow, the railing back. Now, basically, Todoroki gets at the truck with Kirishima and also Denki, and they start, running for it. And before they run for it, Denki bangs in the window of Deku and Deku, Bakugo, Momo, and Mina's and Ochaku's pretty much, truck. And basically they tell them that we're gonna run for it. Now they start running for it, and basically they hear a huge roaring. They look back and they see the T-Rex immediately just runs out of nowhere and pretty much just kicks down the gate. Now basically the rest of them, they start running out. They start booking it. Now mainly most of the part of the group is still in the truck. Mainly Ochaku, Momo, and Mina, and also Bakugo is still in the truck. Deku was able to kick the door open and get out there fast enough with one for all. Basically, he was about to run for it, thinking that the rest of his, rest of his group was out. And basically, he starts ripping the doors off of the hinges with his quirk, trying to get the rest of his, pretty much, friends out of the truck. Until the T-Rex grabs the truck and starts pulling it around and biting at it. Now, basically, Deku stands really still, basically having extensive knowledge on T-Rexes before, him going through a lot of, pictures, books, and all sorts of other stuff as he was pretty much coming towards Jurassic Park to know the most about T-Rexes and dinosaurs. Now, basically, Deku starts slowly backing up, but eventually steps into a couple of mud, him tripping and him making enough motion for the T-Rex to try to charge at him. Deku starts booking it with one throw, passing by Kirishima, Denki, and Todoroki. Todoroki makes an ice wall, slowing down the T-Rex for a good amount of time for them to book it and run off. Now, basically, Momo and the rest of the team, with the pretty much doors ripped off, they get out and they start running separate the other way. Now, basically, they start running the other way, and for Shinso and basically the rest of Class 1B, they start to run for it too because they were near the Velociraptor exhibit, and the Velociraptors were smart enough to get out and to escape. Now, if they start, well, pretty much trying to get into the car, now, pretty much, Shinso sees that the Velociraptors are trying to open the car doors, basically, him saying to lock the doors. Now, basically, the quirk copying kid doesn't hear this with his headphones on, and basically the car door opens up and he's pulled out of it. He's dragged to the forest, and he's not dead, but he is getting mauled and getting cut up. Now basically the vine quirk girl pretty much uses some of her vine powers to grab the quirk erasing guy or quirk copying guy and to pull him back towards the truck and for them to get back in the truck and lock the doors. Now, the Velociraptors try to break all the windows, and they are breaking the windows, trying to get in. But basically, Shinso says, let's book it. And basically, Shinso opens the door on a Velociraptor, knocking it in the head, making it fall into the ground, long enough for Shinso to book it. The rest of the group books it as well, them splitting up in groups of two. Now, they start booking it, just straight up booking it. Now, they start running, and we can switch back to Class 1A. Class 1A is still in the philosopher is still running away from the T-Rex, and basically the T-Rex is following pretty much Todoroki, Deku, Denki, and Kirishima, and basically he's just going straight after them. Todoroki sees the opening in the gate, seeing that it's no real point in running because we're not going to be able to outrun this. Deku says I can, basically him running farther and farther, saying to keep up, him trying to motivate his friends, to go faster. And basically, he's told to stop when basically Todoroki finds the opening through the gate to try to go into the T-Rex exhibit, seeing that none of the T-Rexes are still in there, and then going into the T-Rex exhibit, but then falling down, seeing that it was a cliffside, and Todoroki making sort of an ice branch on a nearby tree, them stopping on the ice branch, and him looking around, seeing that it's multiple, pretty much a herbivore type of dinosaurs walking around eating grass. And the Deku has a moment with one of the dinosaurs feeding them some grass or some bushes off of the tree, and them looking in each other's eyes. Now basically, Denki takes a picture, and Deku says, "You have your phone on you? Call." And basically, Denki says there's no cell phone tower that are on. Now basically, she says that it is, radios or, pretty much, some walkie-talkies at the truck. Now, Deku says he was walkie-talkies at the trunk and you didn't get them. Basically, Denki says I didn't know. And basically, they make a plan to try to go back to the trucks. But Kirishima says we can't really go back to the trucks because the dinosaur is probably waiting there. But basically, Deku says T-Rexes aren't that smart. Now, basically, Kirishima says I don't want to take that chance. And he says we gotta go back to the camp and pretty much get back to the rest of, get back to the rest of, the class. Now, back at the camp, basically Ida and the rest of Ida, Jiro, and, all the rest of the, pretty much group are basically back at the, back at the camp, basically them trying to get in contact with the rest of, everybody else, the rest of the group. Deku, Denki, Kirishima, Bakugo, Mina, Ochaku, Momo, and Todoroki. Basically, they're trying to get in contact with them, but them saying no, it's not working. Now, basically, they start, basically, we can switch back to Bakugo. We can switch up to Bakugo, Momo, and Ochaku, and Mina. Now, basically, they start to book it, and they wait near some bushes, basically waiting for the T-Rex to pass. And they see the T-Rex isn't coming after them, and they get out of hiding, and they start to follow the tracks back around. Basically, Kirishima saying that and Bakugo saying it's a circle around the whole camp. It's a couple of other branches, but we just gotta keep in the same path. And basically, they follow the railing all the way up until the railing stops because, the part is in construction and it's still in work in progress. Now, they see there's no other way and they have to go back past the T-Rex exhibit and right towards the camp. Now, basically, they see there's no real choice. Momo saying that's not gonna be very, smart. Bakugo saying, let's do it anyways. I gotta get back to camp. And basically saying I'm not gonna die here just because, basically Bakugo running around and leaving Momo, Mina, and Ochaku behind. Now they start following after Bakugo, and basically they start running out the gates, and basically Momo taking lead, basically telling the Bakugo we gotta go right through the forest. The forest is the quickest way to get back to camp, and it's the most surest way. And basically, they say Bakugo said he looked at the maps, and I did say, and I do remember, that it is a very toxic dinosaur exhibit near and right between that line you're pointing to, right towards the camp. If we go past there, we might get killed, so I'm not gonna take that chance. And basically, Momo's saying I'm taking that chance, and she jumps down and goes into the forest, alongside Mina and Ochaku, leaving Bakugo behind. Now we switch back to Class 1A, Class 1B, and basically Class 1B has split up. Now basically Class 1B, back at the camp, at their camp, Class 1B, basically, basically I think it was the air bubble guy, the air wall guy, Tetsu, um, I think it was, Kendo, and also, what was it? The welding guy, and Vine Girl, and also the, Shinso. Basically, I actually didn't know Shinso wasn't in Class 1A. I didn't know that, but now I do. And it just says Shinso's just, in Class 1A now. In Class 1B now. Now, basically, they get ready, and basically, for, their group, basically, now they basically start to book it, and basically, the Hornquark girl, and Hornquark girl, Vine girl, and also the Quark copying kid, they're running near the forest, away from all the camps, just them blindly running. Now, eventually, the Quark copy kid stops and says that we need to make a plan, and we need to find out, where we're heading. Now, they were heading straight towards mainly where the Velociraptors were at, right near the area where they, left, because they went into a circle. But basically, they would have walked around, and eventually they would have found a whole entire squad, whole entire gang of Velociraptors waiting for them. Them just them booking it, and some of the Velociraptors grabbing the horn girl, basically dragging her into the jungle. Now she is presumably dead, and they start running off. Now she says we gotta stop this now, and her staying behind, and her using some of her quirk to take down some of the Velociraptors, to break their neck, and also to throw them in the trees with the vines. Eventually, she gets caught off guard and gets thrown to the ground by two other Velociraptors, presumably her being shown to be dead. And basically, the last one left in the whole entire group, or whole entire group outside of the camp, is Shinso, Quirk Copying Kid, and that's basically it. So basically, Quirk Copying Kid starts to straight up book it. He's just not stopping at all. Now basically, he eventually stops near the camp. Actually, him being able to get back to the camp, but at Class 1A's camp. Now he runs in there and starts banging on the door, saying to let me in. They let him in, and they ask where the rest of the students are and where are the rest of your class. He says they're all dead, basically saying that when I was running, Velociraptors ganged up on them and killed them. And basically, him basically having a whole entire life crisis, him panicking and hyperventilating, him being pretty much incredibly dramatically hurt. Like, he saw his friends or his classmates literally get eaten alive, or presumably heard their screams of death. Didn't really see them die, but he heard them. And basically, he looks around, and the rest of the group basically, they just look at him and give him a blanket over him, saying, let's just, go. Now, at this point, it was still raining and everything, and it was all muddy around the area. Now, we switch back to Class 1A, and basically, the group that was outside of the area. Deku, Todoroki, Denki, and Kirishima, they were still just, around the area, just them trying to gain near or around the area itself. And basically, we switch back to Class 1A, and Azawa and one of the Wild Wild Pussycat members are trying to find out, how they're going to find their, pretty much, well, students. Now, basically, the Wild Wild Pussycats split up, along with Ozawa taking a few other students, telling them to stay outside around the doors to try to find out if any of their classmates come back and to help them if they're injured or not. And also not to let any other dinosaurs inside or let any dinosaurs at all inside. Now, basically, most of the students actually disobey either Zawa's rules. Zero, Sugar Rush. Oh, is it? Sorry, guys. Zero and Sugar Rush and Quark Tail Kid and Tokiyami all go out to try to find the rest of their group. Now they're heading straight towards the area or where basically Mina, Bakugo, Momo, and Ochaki were heading. Now basically they're going through the forest and Bakugo is looking around, trying to find them because he was left behind. Now eventually he hears some gunshots, basically hearing Momo pretty much shoot at some animals, or mainly dinosaurs. Now the venomous dinosaurs that were originally, took out what was it? The chubby guy that was trying to get the DNA samples of Jurassic Park. Basically, they would have been attacking one of the League of Villains characters. And the League of Villain characters they would be attacking would be, let's say this League of Villains character would be basically Twice. Now this would be Twice's clone, and he would disappear after the dinosaurs would have spread him with the attack with the dangerous acid and would have pretty much mauled him. Now basically, Twice would have been watching from some trees, seeing the rest of the students basically fight off a couple of the mini dinosaurs or like tiny dinosaurs at them first, thinking they're cute, but them coming in swarms and trying to eat them or trying to pretty much maul them or take them out. And basically, they would be shooting off. Momo would have been touching some of them, floating them up into the ground. Her herself using some of her powers to float up in the ground and get away from the dinosaurs. And pretty much Mina just throwing her acid on the dinosaurs, getting them away, killing some of them. And basically, Momo and Mina would have been fighting on the ground, trying to keep the dinosaurs away. Now, basically, for this whole entire event, basically they would have been, trying to get away from the dinosaurs. Now, basically, Bakugo would have shown up, throwing more explosions, making enough noise to make the dinosaurs spread away and get away. Now, basically, they would have been stopped when they made enough noise. They'll attract some other dinosaurs, aka the pretty much Velociraptors. Velociraptors would have jumped to the forest trying to look for them. Basically, Bakugo hearing some noise and seeing that the Velociraptors jump out, or mainly just two, jump out and start to trade up, attack them. Now, Bakugo gets bitten in the arm, but he gets out of the clutches of the Velociraptor, telling them to run. They start running off course, Momo telling them to cut back on course, and them saying that we gotta get out here now. They start running, and eventually they get near the area where the herbivore dinosaurs were at, basically seeing a whole entire herd of them coming towards them. At this point, the sun was coming up, so it was like sunrise, and the rain has stopped. Now, basically, they started to run and get out the way as fast as possible. Now, seeing that the herd was running away from something, they would have hid under some logs, pretty much the herd going around the logs or over the logs by jumping over them. Now, they would have looked behind the herd, seeing it was the same T-Rex that hunted them down, or not really hunted them down, chased them off and got them separated in the first place. Basically, them seeing that the T-Rex was running after the animals. You see the T-Rex got some of the animals and ate on some of them. The T-Rex eventually noticing the scent of Bakugo. Now Bakugo sees the dinosaur, and the dinosaur has correct eye contact. Correct, I mean like straight up like direct eye contact with Bakugo. And Bakugo books it. He doesn't tell his group or anything. He just books it, not saying a word to Ochaku, Momo, or Mina. Him knowing that the T-Rex was going after him. Because the T-Rex, actively saw him. And basically, he books it. Basically, Momo and Ochaku about to look up off of the log with was it Mina, basically saying that, well, what was it? Basically, Mina being stopped when he tells them to put their heads down, seeing the T-Rex jumping over the log, and him following after Bakugo. Bakugo runs back into the forest, running over and over, and eventually running as fast as he possibly can. Him tripping over some logs, him running faster and faster, him about to get mauled or jumped on, or pretty much just bitten and eaten by the T-Rex glaring right over him throwing a huge explosion with all of his might, him bruising some of his arm muscle, but him blowing enough explosion to basically, well, temporarily blind the T-Rex. He runs off and he starts booking it. He eventually runs into Tokiyami, Ojiro, Sugar Rush, and also Zero, and basically bumps into both of them. Now he says, "Why are you guys out here?" And they say, "We're looking for you guys. Let's go." Basically, them hearing the T-Rex's roars, not far away from Bakugo's running. Now they start running off, Bakugo's arms being very sore, and them getting back to camp. Now basically, they get back to camp, and basically, they would have gone back to pretty much the camp with pretty much Bakugo finding the camp, them being head back, but Bakugo telling them that Momo, Ochaku, and Mina were left behind near the herbivore exhibit where the pretty much fields were. Now basically, Tokiyami would have said, "I'll find them," basically telling Ojiro to come with them for some extra backup. They would have ran off, basically Sato and Zero taking Bakugo, since seeing Bakugo's arms were bruisy and bruised up, basically them walking him back to camp. Now basically he would have been escorted back into camp, basically the rest of this class, Jiro, Monoma, Toru, and I think it was Mizo, and also Meta would have been helping him out, trying to get him back and putting some bandages around his arms. Basically, we're gonna switch back to the A team: Kirishima, Denki, Todoroki, and Daku. They would have been in the forest, like deep in the forest, and they would have been running around, and they would have found the power generator. Now they would have seen some of the guards that were around looking for them, that were near the main entrance or the pretty much area of Jurassic Park, basically seeing some of the guards' bodies and seeing some of their seeing some of their walkie-talkies still working, but some blood on them. But Todoroki doesn't really care, him grabbing it and wiping the blood off. Now Todoroki would have called the main area, basically one of the Wild Wild Pussycat members, the man one, basically explaining to them that, well, let's get ready. And basically him getting told their exact location, him saying to get there, stay there, and try to find a safe place over there. And pretty much them saying that they're near the, pretty much power generators. Now he would have said to get the power back on, it might stop some of more of the dinosaurs to attack. Now basically he would have told them to go into the power generator and to try to stop it. Now they would have gone into the power generator, opening the door, and basically they would have been looking around. They would have heard footsteps, and basically Deku would have looked up, seeing a huge bolt of blue fire blasting straight towards him. Deku would have dodged out the way, and basically Todoroki, Denki, and Kirishima being confused. Kirishima would have peeked over the corner, seeing a man in some sort of jacket with bluish flames in his hands, saying, "I'm not gonna let you do that, kids." Now basically, he starts shooting more fireballs and fire blasts towards them, and pretty much Todoroki says, I'll buy you guys some time. Let's get the generators back on. Now basically Deku says, "I can't just let you fight him alone." Basically Todoroki saying, I'll do this by myself. Basically him using his ice to block most of the fire attacks, but seeing that's not enough, him getting blasted down to the ground. Now he would have watched closer, and basically he would have gotten up as fast as possible, using some of his fire, the blast, and the have equal amount of firepower against, well, well, Dobby. Now, basically, Dobby would have been throwing more fire blast, and basically would have mysteriously teleported behind, well, Todoroki. Basically, Todoroki looking backwards and seeing that, well, he was blasted like a freaking fool. Him getting blown into a couple crates. Todoroki getting knocked out cold. Now, pretty much, Denki Denki would have been looking backwards, seeing that Todoroki was completely, folded. I mean, like straight up laid out. Now, basically, Denki and Kirishima would have been running off, and they would eventually find the generator and try to, take it back on. Now, Deku would have tried to turn it back on, and nothing would have come of it. Now, he would have taken off his UA sports outfit, because all of them will be wearing their UA sports outfit. Basically, him taking off the jacket part, him just having a white shirt underneath, him taking it, putting it around his fist, saying, you're gonna have to buy me some time. Basically, actually, what was it? Denki saying that. Denki saying I can probably, charge up the generators. And basically, Deku saying, do that. I'll buy you some time. Basically, him pinning his jacket, ripping them apart, painting them around his fist, trying to stop, some of the fire or some of the bruising that he was going to get by the whole entire, beat down he was going to give Dobby. Now, basically, Dobby runs and rushes right towards Deku. Deku doing the same thing, and them starting to fight. Now, basically, they would have been exchanging punches, but Dobby using some of his fire to manifest around his hands, making fire fists, basically burning Deku then and there in the stomach, face, legs, and arms. Basically, Deku at this point getting dominated. Now, Deku would eventually use more of the smash halfway through the fight, basically straight up drop kicking Dobby right into the face. Now basically, they would have started to fight, and I mean, just go right at it. Now, he would have thrown a couple of Detroit smashes, his arm being kind of bruised, but him using some of his leg or kicking power, and that's just saying he's just going to be kicking, he's not going to really be on, the whole entire kicking strategy yet. But him just should have just punching, Dobby. Now, Dobby would have dodged some of the attacks, saying, I'm going to get you out of this, kid. And basically throwing a huge fire blast in the back of Deku, sending Deku out of the generator area or out of the building. Basically, him flying into the forest and him bumping into a big, muscular guy. And basically, this would be Muscular. Now, Muscular would have looked down at Deku, and Deku would have told him, let's start this rodeo, kid. Him straight up just us hearing an audience, hearing blood just splatter, hearing fist against face, and basically Deku getting tamaleed. I mean, Deku just getting folded, beaten up, bruised, bloody, just beaten. Now, back at the camp at UA, basically the quirk kid, or the kid that hates heroes, he would have been looking out, and he would have seen some sort of man. He would have looked closer, and he would have seen that it was some sort of lizard-like man, and pretty much one of the Bow Wow Pussycats would have came back from camp, them looking and seeing that it was a villain. Now, they would have started to fight them, and basically the quirk kid would have told the rest of the students that it was a villain at the front, and basically he was fighting, well, the Wow Wow Pussycats. And basically they would have started to watch, and eventually the Wow Wow Pussycat member would have gotten folded or overpowered by other two villains that would have showed up. Now, basically the villains would have said, we're taking your students and we're going to show you what the League of Villains can really do. Now, they would have started to attack, and they would have started to make a bunch of noise, attracting the Velociraptors and multiple of the dinosaurs. Basically, the Velociraptors sneaking in, taking some of the villains out, not killing them, but mortally injuring them to a point of knocking them into a coma-like state. Now, some of the Velociraptors would have tracked down some of the kids, and basically, the same way, Ida and Monoma would have been hiding underneath near the pretty much cafe area, kind of like the same kids, the two kids in the original Jurassic Park movie, basically them looking around trying to get away from the Velociraptors. Eventually, Monoma would have used his naval laser to blast the Velociraptors into the freezer, pretty much locking him in there. Now, Ida would have ran out there, seeing the rest of the students taking out multiple other of the Velociraptors, and then looking around, hearing more of a big roar. And this point, that big war would have been a huge just punch in the face because the T-Rex would be right at the front door. Now, most of the villains were taken out, but most of the villains escaped, alongside twice Dobby, Shadow Court guy, and also what was it, Shigaraki. Now, basically, they would have started to attack, and eventually, Bakugo would have been grabbed by one of the villains, along right when pretty much everybody was getting attacked. Now, he would have been grabbed by one of the villains right when the T-Rex was attacking everybody in the camp. Basically, Bakugo was still being kidnapped, and he would have been dragged away. Now, basically, the rest of the students would have been, fighting the T-Rex, and eventually they would start to basically fight. Now, basically, the rest of the students and everybody else, including Mina, Momo, and the rest of the students, all of them, including Class 1B, would have arrived back at their camps. Mainly Class 1B arriving at Class 1A more than all the others. Now, Class 1B barely didn't get any type of real, danger. Basically, mainly them fighting, eventually seeing that the power comes on, and basically them calling, more reinforcements, seeing most of the other students and more of the Pussycats, and also Blood. What's that? I think it was Blood Power, or I don't know, Class 1B's teacher. He would have shown up, including Azawa, and they would have started to try to take down the T-Rex. Now, Deku would have came out from the forest, seeing that he was bloody up, and his hands being covered in blood. Now, Deku would have nearly killed Muscular. At this point, Muscular and Deku would have fought in the forest, and basically he would have kind of won. Deku would have won because he wanted to save himself and also save everybody else from this. And basically Deku would have ran off, or pretty much slowly walk out of the forest, saying that basically Muscular was beaten up and bruised up. Deku's hands being completely covered in blood, bruised up, and his arms barely being able to move, and his nose gushing blood, and his mouth also gushing blood, him having internal bleeding and all sorts of other stuff. Now, Deku would have seen himself just completely, brutally up, because he would also have burn marks on his body as well. Deku would have opened the door to the generator, and seeing that Dobby would have been, who would have deuced, because they would have gotten, what they came for. They would have gotten Bakugo. Now, most of the villains would have, left, and basically Denki would have gotten back on the generators, and Kirishima, Denki, and Deku would have ran, or Kirishima would have pretty much carried Deku, and they would have, all three of them, or all two of them would have ran, and Deku would have been carried by Kirishima. They would have been carried back to Class 1A, and Class 1B mainly just attacked off or fended off some Velociraptors, and that was basically it. Now, basically, that's where I'm going to leave out part 1. Now, basically, that would have ended off there, because they would have taken out the T-Rex. Basically, at this point, they would have arrived back at the camp, basically seeing the rest of some of the heroes pretty much driving victorious over the corpse of the T-Rex, seeing the T-Rex was completely, just completely just. So basically, they would have seen this, and, pretty much they would have given their, worst, and saying this was the worst thing ever, but basically, them, pretty much their, opinions being shot down, because, it mainly wasn't supposed to be like this, because the League of Villains showed up. So, basically, the rest of the students were sent back home, or sent back at UA, and basically all the other stuff happened after the events of the Forest Training Arc. Everything happened accordingly. Nothing really changed happened. They would still try to, going after Bakugo, and the same thing would have happened, blah, 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 and basically everything would go the same. Now, for the Class 1B students, they wouldn't die, they would just be greatly injured, and, on certain areas, or grass beds on the floor, bleeding out. Now, the medical team, after getting called by the island, since the power was back up, basically medical teams would have arrived, pretty much helping the Class 1B students and all that other stuff. So technically, no one really died, and yeah, so I'm gonna leave off part one to this movie What If. Now, basically, tonight, the other What If I'm gonna be uploading part two to What If Invincible was in Young Justice, and also maybe part two to What If the Predators were in the MCU. Now, basically, guys, if you guys always know, like, subscribe, comment, and as always, guys, have a blessed day. And if you guys have any commentary or any type of requests you guys want to see, um, well, go ahead and comments and ask. See you guys later. Bye. And as always, guys, have a blessed day.